Cosmic horror. Guys, it goes without saying, but we're all agreed on the fact that we simply can't get enough of this genre. Whether it's the King in Yellow, the Crimson King, the Scarlet King, whatever Stephen King pen pal favourite you want to spin, there is no denying the fact that this incredibly specific facet of horror fiction has produced some of the most terrifying entities and creations that we've ever had the misfortune of coming across. Over 3 parts we've detailed some of the most horrendous horrors of them all, and yet they keep on coming. The pile is only getting larger, so let's see just what else is heading our way. Hello horror fans, what's going on? And once again, welcome back to the Scariest channel on YouTube, top 5 scary videos. As per usual, I'll be your host Jack Finch, as today we curiously take a look at the top 5 scariest cosmic horror monsters, part 4. Oh, also, as is always the case, if you're expecting Lovecraft or King, they already have their own lists. Not today, Stephen. Anyway, on with the show. Kicking off at number 5, The Beholders, Dungeons and Dragons. And yeah, it kinda goes without saying, but a giant floating eyeball is pretty indicative of the cosmic behind the horror. And if you came for giant floating eyeballs, then look no further than the Beholder, the sphere of many eyes, the eye tyrant, large orb-shaped beings with 10 tentacular eye stalks of great and powerful magic. In the Underdark of Dungeons and Dragons, there are perhaps no other horrifying creations such as powerful and intelligent and as much of a threat to the sentient races of the universe than the Beholder. Fear is in the eye. And for those of you that are fans of the greatest tabletop RPG ever created, which is pretty much all of you, I know, then you'll also know how utterly devastating this type of cosmic horror creature can be to an unprepared party. Both xenophobic and vicious creatures, Beholders are quick to strike and revel in attacking their enemies. Anyone unlike themselves are seen as fair game to be tormented and violently deconstructed by the anomalous powers of the Beholder. They are both violent and greedy, and yet their arrogance is unrivaled by any other creature of the Underdark, where each of their race believe themselves to be the pinnacle of bodily perfection, causing great rifts in their society and culture. You see, the mind of a Beholder is divided into 2 separate entities. Each of these think and act by their own accord, and yet neither half of this sentient creature's mind trusts the other. This unique mental design has caused the Beholder to be the pinnacle of paranoia, essentially a Gollum-Schmeagol relationship condensed neatly into a giant bulbous floating eyeball. And yeah, if you couldn't tell by now, that's a pretty horrifying combination. But that's not the worst. You see, the Beholder race worships Gensmid, the Great Mother, essentially a giant collection of gaseous orbs that would give Azathoth himself a run for his money. Yeah. And trust me, that one is anyone's guess. Swinging in at number 4, Brethren Moon's Dead Space. And yeah, talking of giant floating gaseous orbs, let's take a look at the horror condensed within these literal planets of sentient necrotic living tissue. Yeah, exactly. If you're looking for a paradox, these necromorph overlords don't give a damn about your feelings or emotions. You can kill the prophet, but you can't kill the god. We are coming, we are hungry, we are here. Brother moons or blood moons, whichever way you spin it, Brethren Moons are some of the most terrifying fictional entities ever found in a video game, and in many ways, akin to their theoretical allies in Bloodborne, the Brethren Moons are the literal embodiment of all things cosmic horror. Also, as a side note, if you're a fan of cosmic horror and you haven't yet played the Dead Space franchise, stop what you're doing right now and go and play one of the finest horror video games ever created, and thank me later. And also brace yourself, because it's really scary. Although their origins are completely unknown in the terrifying universe of Dead Space, the Brethren Moons are a series of moon-sized living creatures found throughout the galaxy that have a particular habit of consuming all manners of organic life that they encounter on their terrifying paths. You see, as Isaac Clarke finds out following the events of the Dead Space series, Brethren Moon's sole purpose is to consume entire planets by sending out their anomalous black markers, a living alien contagion that heralds the arrival of the necromorph chaos to come. Brethren Moons seemingly target random planets and, well, they consume them in their entirety. The most terrifying facet of the species of cosmic horror fiend, though, you know that monolith in 2001: A Space Odyssey? Well, yeah, if we add the Brethren Moon to that hypothetical equation, Kubrick's movie is a far different kettle of fish, and it doesn't really bear thinking about. It's terrifying. Next up at number 3, the Oberus, Dungeons and Dragons. And whilst you may think it a little bit gregarious for us to feature 2 cosmic horror entities from Dungeons and Dragons on this list, believe me, this one is certainly worth its eldritch salt. In the vast and expansive canon of the greatest tabletop RPG ever created, an Oberus is perhaps one of the most all-consuming evil species ever penned. In many ways, it transcends many of the themes laid out in D&D, and although no longer part of the 5th edition of the franchise, when you peer back through the many layers of the Oberus history, my word, there is a lot of unsettling truths to face. Older than even the Tanari themselves, the Oberus are an ancient race of demons that serve only the ultimate evils of the Abyss, entities of unfathomable evil that hail from a remote and forgotten universe, and who, after destroying and consuming everything in their own universe, sought refuge in the realms of others. Ours. Those that survived the chaos and destruction wrought by the Oberus species instead fashioned all of their hatred and hunger into a single horrific shard of pure evil, which they then used to pierce the veil that separates the myriad multiverse. This shard was then found by Thrasidun, the god of eternal darkness, who after touching it was instantly corrupted by the very essence of evil, and in turn created what is now known as the Abyss. Obviously the life essence of the Oberus followed, taking up their mantle as the new primordial demon lords of the abyssal realm. The Queen of Chaos, Pazuzu, Obox, Ob, Dagon, the Oberus species make up some of the most utterly vile and completely powerful entities that you can manage to muster within the confines of Dungeons and Dragons. The Melgoth, Bishard the Rotting Husk, Ugendenk the Squirming King. What makes the Oberus so profound in their role as horror entities is that they combine both aspects of what we expect from a demonic species and yet give them a horrifying origin from the stars. Oberus. Do not trust them. Coming in at number 2, the other kind, DC Comics. Okay, now this one may be a little difficult given the fact that when we talk about cosmic horror being the definition of the unknown and the unknowable, pretty much nothing is known about this grouping of anomalous entities other than the fact that the terror that follows in their wake is undeniably unsettling. The other kind are the definition of weird, and for fans of DC Comics you'll appreciate just how mysterious this race of anomalous beings truly are. The bulk of what we do know about the other kind though comes from one of the most monstrous recent entities in the whole of comic bookdom, a creature otherwise known as the Upside Down Man. And what is pretty important to note, if you'd like to see this eldritch horror gradually creep its way into existence in real time, then you should probably stop what you're doing and read the latest run of Justice League Dark, because it is pretty damn terrifying. The other kind, heralded by the absolutely terrifying Upside Down Man, are anyone's guess, really. Where they come from, what they're after, and who or why they are crawling into the universe of Prime Earth, seemingly from the bowels of the Tree of Wonder. Over the past decade or so, DC has been taking a huge turn toward cosmic horror, and yeah, whilst Justice League Dark isn't exactly everyone's cup of tea, this new direction pointing toward the other kind is something else entirely. Headed by Wonder Woman alongside Detective Chimp, Man-Bat, Zatanna, and everyone's favourite tendril buddy, Swamp Thing, this may be one of the most hopeless narratives in comic book history. It's really dark. Even Hecate herself knows that the other kind cannot be stopped. The Soup, the Conjoined, the Rip. You see, the other kind have always been here. They are cosmic horror 101, I think. I'm scared, either way. And finally coming in at number 1 spot, the Catan Warhammer 40k. Alright, it's no secret that our reverence for the Warhammer 40k and Warhammer Fantasy franchise has led us to some pretty damn terrifying entries in our time here over at Top 5 Scary Videos. And whilst the Chaos Gods have rightfully featured their spot on this particular list series, the Catan have been patiently waiting in the wings of eternal misery, as they always have been. As told by the ancient Eldari, the Catan, otherwise known as the Star Gods or Ingir in the ancient tongue, are said to be the oldest intelligent beings in existence in the entirety of the Milky Way galaxy. In the ancient history of the Eldari, it is said that they were created at the very beginning of the universe and were thus spawned from the swirling gases and enormous amounts of energy found at the dawn of all creation. In their natural form, they are vast beings that sustain their existence by spreading themselves over the surface of a star, absorbing its solar energy in order to feed. In an equally terrifying coming-of-age story, the Catan were so inexplicably disconnected from their own existence that it took them millennia before they realized that the stars they fed upon were in fact a finite resource. Talk about a moment of self-discovery. You see, after a time, the Catan learned to spread their diaphanous wings to travel to other stars so they could continue their eternal all-you-can-eat buffet. You see, the Catan are so disconnected from what we know as life that it took them eons upon eons for them to fail to realize the insignificance of the matter that surrounded them. All they could do was consume, but on a level that our human brain could never fully comprehend. And of course, what better function to serve for a life form of such incomprehensible power than to be living gods of the Necron species, if you could call them that. In many ways, compared to the Chaos Gods of the Warhammer canon, the Catan eclipse even them. Whereas the Chaos Gods sprang into existence to represent and personify different facets of emotion, the Catan were always there. Before all things, before all of creation, the Catan were the cosmic horrors waiting at the center of the universe. No thanks. Well, there we have it, horror fans, our list for the top 5 scariest cosmic horror monsters. Part 4. What do you guys think? Do you agree? Disagree? Have any more to add to this list? Then let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Before we depart from today's video though, sadly, I would like to let you all know that this has been my final moment on this frightening stage that we call Top 5 Scary Videos. It has been an absolute pleasure to deliver you some of the most interesting and intriguing facets of horror cinema, literature, mythology, culture, and history, but unfortunately, like all good things, my time here has come to an end. I'll be heading back to the United Kingdom to continue into the next decade of 2020, which feels weird to say. But you can find me as always on Instagram at 2CoachJack or on Twitter at JawFinch. And if you're interested, you can see exactly what I'll be up to in 2020. Could say I've got a few irons in the fire, but you'll have to wait and see. I sincerely hope that this is not an understatement, but I am entirely and eternally grateful for every single kind word or comment that you guys have ever said about me. And also every unkind word, because as you know, what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. Really, it's been an absolute pleasure, an absolute joy, and I hope that we've all learned something along the way, because I certainly have. You'll be in safe hands with Lucy and our man Dylan, and I hope that you'll continue on with this top 5 scary story. Be kind to each other, be good human beings, and most importantly, stay curious. And so, for one last time, as always, I've been your horror host, Jack Finch. You've been watching Top 5 Scary Videos, and until next time, you take it easy. By Thraz doing. I thought I was gonna do it in one take, dude. Oh well. Can't win them all. It's impossible.